How'd everyone sleep? Good? The beds have been quite comfortable, I would say. Breakfast has been good. Food has been good. Are you guys happy with the location? Okay. Ah. Purvi and I are saying it kind of feels a little bit like a nice resort because you have the water without the price tag, so it's been really nice. So we have something really exciting today that we prepared. They're just setting up the slides, but today's all about action, because yesterday we debated a lot of different things. Before I get there, I had some requests. If you have an overflow request to ask the council, Christian brought up one that he wants to ask help for the council. If anyone else has just prompts and ask, I want to allow the space to float it now while they're setting up the slides. So Christian, bring it up.
Yeah, thank you. Just kind of a public service announcement, if you will. I had a principal designer and design manager who's worked for me for 9 years over the years, and 3 different companies, not working for me now, but she was let go yesterday. And this is someone that I really trust. She's very loyal, very hardworking, lives in Sunnyvale, needs a new role, and is available. So if anybody has an opening and is looking for something like that, I'd like to hear more about her, please let me know and I'll give you the scoop. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Anyone else have an ask? You do.
I'll build. So I have 2 roles. One is a director and a principal, high craft, high kind of brand polish connection as well, systems thinker for our loyalty business. So if you know anybody, send them my way, please. But also, I think, Heather, you had a PSA out to a few of us, and I was thinking, based on some of the other conversations around the different types of functions that are comprising some of our organizations, I would love to see us just do a really quick pulse on who is also owning things like analytics, what shape is that taking, are there other parts of the organization that we're starting to expand to? What are some of those patterns? Because I think we can learn from that, especially in this time around what is that perimeter of design.
I am going to be opening 2 managing director level roles. They can be anything in the vicinity of design, product, analytics, anything. I can basically decide how I want to divide up the team. And so that they'll report to me, but essentially we're just going to be partners in putting the rest of the team together. Has to be in Atlanta.
We'll just go all the way.
You can fly home every week.
Which this makes me think it'd be nice to have a job board or something. We do? We do? Where we get pinged.
Let's add that to our roadmap.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I'm hiring too. Probably, I think at least a couple senior directors and maybe a VP of design. And also, I have an analytics team that's part of my org, which has really been phenomenal. Looking to hire a director of data science. And anyone that's very upskilled in AI and agentic AI, that's what we're focused on right now. So, and it's, it's Autodesk, so it's like 3D and 2D modeling, the future of Gen AI as it relates to that. So like build me an airport that has, that kind of thing. So it's really cool stuff. So.
Just a quick raise of hands. Who has analytics responsibility in their roles or had? Oh, all right. It's like half the group here. Any other functions? Data science? Data science? Matthew? Okay. Any other ones?
Regular science.
Oh, product management. Product in your remit? Okay. Engineering and development? Okay. You know what we should do? Let's raise those hands one more time. I'm going to start from, so we can take a photo and track you back and then help everyone see each other. Okay, we're going to start from the top. Analytics, raise your hand high. Got everyone?
No, I can't see everybody.
How are you going to correlate? Tanvi, can you take a phone photo of this? Yeah. Okay, analytics, one more time.
We can all just do a poll on WhatsApp.
Okay, second one is data science. Okay, and then product management. Wow, we're cross-pollinating. Engineering? Front-end engineering. Front-end engineering. Front-end engineering. Back-end engineering. Oh, 3 back-end. Okay, back-end 3. Any other functions I'm missing? Science? Brand. We have brand leaders in the room, yes. Got it, Tanvi? Science. Actual science. Okay. Got it. Last one, industrial design, hardware design. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I guess kind of store design too, yeah. Brand, architecture? Okay, 2, 3, 4, all right. Store design. Oh gosh, we really need a poll. Okay, Disha, we'll make one before we leave quickly. Okay.
SDKs. Shout out to the SDKs.
Cindy, you had to ask PSA?
It wasn't an ask, I was actually going to I won't use it. I was going to +1 Purvey because we talked about that in relation to the business scenario article, and also thought about collecting the scope of one's role. So yes, sometimes it's tied to business, but for example, who's working on employee experience? Operations, there's a whole sort of draft list, but I think it would be good to actually do that so you can see the patterns. Does it correlate with the business scenario? Does it correlate with, so many other things? But I think that would be just a great addition.
What do we call this so my team can note this down?
What do we call it?
This
It was like there's a whole list of things that might be like go-to-market was one of them in terms of scope.
Oh, scope, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, scope mapping.
okay.
Based on business scenario.
So Disha, that's scope and business scenarios together. Any other PSAs before we power forward? I feel like we should just do a monthly PSA. This is valuable. All right, so today, annual summit. We are going down to... Matt's a robot. I can't turn on. By the way, if you have not got this book, we have free copies available. This was our very first publication. So if you don't have one, come find us. There's a stack here. This is our very first one. We're going to have a lot more coming, so I'm excited to get this out the door. Right. So today's all about defining the roadmap. Click the next one. We heard a lot yesterday. We even somehow ended up debating the definition of design. We also talked about a whole array of subjects that I think are critical to the forward success. One really important one that I thought was really resonant to me is how do we simply show up as leaders? When you get to that level, you're now the business leader who happens to have a great design background, a research background, all these other things. And that's also consistent feedback and insight we hear from board directors of saying, we're looking for leaders who have a unique perspective. So I think that's gonna be really exciting to make sure we stay focused on those subjects. And so today is all about action and our roadmap to impact. The way we've designed this next few hours of conversation, we're gonna show you something called the Design Executive Navigator. It's a research product that we've been brainstorming of how to organize the role and also the added areas of the role, like expanded remit. 2 is discussions around how can we best help you best serve your teams, leveraging the council's resources. We want to make sure you're successful because your team's also successful, taking in all these insights. So that's a track of discussion, how to up-level our teams. The third one is what we call business forum. How do we help you better influence and partner with your business leaders on design executive impact? Something that was interesting yesterday, Heather, through dinner, you were like, what if you guys actually interviewed our managers about our roles, the reversal perspective, what's missing, what else would you like to see, how to strengthen that partnership, what if those managers can learn from one another? So just very early ideas of what a business forum could look like for this council, so we really make sure these insights don't just stay in this room. And then finally is the research roadmap. So many of you have experienced the roundtables, the virtual conversations. We're constantly thinking about how to evolve the event roadmap so that the conversations actually lead to meaningful research impact. So that's going to be something we're going to take stock of all the conversations we've had and how do we sequence the topics so it's valuable. So something that's already top of my head is kind of the runtime paradigm, the fast software paradigm. That's something top of my mind of like, what does that talk track look like to help us architect that transformation of how software is built and deployed. Cool. Let's go to the very first one. One more time. Okay, so this Navigator. This is really interesting for us because as I've studied this space and you look around the broader business landscape, there are roles like the CIO, the CMO, the CFO, CEO. They all have something like this. You go to Gartner, you go to Forrester, you go to McKinsey, there's something like this. For the design executive, the closest thing I've found is probably the McKinsey work that Fabricio actually was part of doing, the business value of design research, and I'd love for you. Yeah, exactly. I'd love for you to share more about that. But what I believe is so powerful is this group has the best shot at answering this question because you guys are in the roles. You're not the consultants. You're not the analysts. You are the design executive. And so where we're going to spend some time in this morning, before we get to some of the other questions and surfacing those needs, is this is an opportunity for you guys to come together, and we left those blank on purpose, by the way, so it's not filled, so that you guys actually think about what are those 360 dimensions of the role if we're to organize it. Core, expansion, and so we're gonna get into some breakout groups to stimulate some really great discussions to form this Design Executive 360. Any thoughts on this concept? Does this resonate to finally organize the practice?
I think this is really cool.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely have some things that I would love to see on there.
Yeah. And so this is not just about mapping the landscape, it's about, imagine, let's say we're gonna go into vision. What are the best practices around that? What does maturity look like, as we even talked about quality of the purpose statements and the practice and the facilitation of it? All the way down to, on the right-hand side, is the case studies that anchor. If you were to look for examples of best practice, how do you do that? I hear often, I gotta convince my CFO of these big investments in, let's say, a design system. How do I do that? From stage 1 to stage 3. So this is what we're gonna do. We've set up the easels, like here, and then where are the other ones? One there, and then there's gonna be one there. So we're gonna have 3 groups. How should we organize this? 3 groups, actually. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, perfect. So divide that into 3, and we have a group. Okay. All right.
Are we breaking up to talk about the same thing in small groups, or are we going to break out and talk about different things in different groups?
No, it's to give the 3 groups an opportunity to kind of coalesce, because we're going to find the patterns, the non-patterns, and share that back out as a group on the 360s of the role. And I think because we have people with cross-functional responsibility, it's going to help add to that expansion remit. Cool? All right.
What are the categories? There's clear groupings here. Do we want to start with a shared set of categories and then say if we're missing a category, we need to
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
remove a category, and then you can kind of, it's a bit of a fill in the blanks.
Yep.
Beyond that.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be a bit of learn and experiment together. So I'm going to number you guys off into 3 groups. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, group 1. Please go to where Chinar is at, and you can maybe move that to a place that's comfortable. Group 2, come to Disha. She will be over there. And then group 3, come to Tanvi on the left-hand side. It's going to be interesting.
Where's group 3? I'm sorry.
Group 3 is with Tanvi, yeah. Hey, hey. Give me five. All right, so a reminder on the prompt. What is the 360 of our practice? What is core versus expansion? Hello, hello. I've pulled an example for you guys. This is the CIO version, just to give you a sense of how our cross-functional peers might be doing it. By no means is this perfect, but I think it's a starting point to give you a sense of your friends across the board.
Oh, you know what's interesting about this? They all start with a verb. They're all actions and like. What's interesting about this, and to think about as you've refined this, is these are all like objectives, because they start with a verb. Right, like foster, enable, advance.
Why did our slide have nouns?
But just, it's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it's for us to invent.
Actually, do you know, Gordon? Why were our slides nouns?
Oh, I just threw it on there. Yeah, there wasn't a lot. There's not that much depth to it. Yeah. Okay. Do you guys want to see the CEO version? Okay. Disha, let's pull the CEO version. We're pulling up the CEO version. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is a CEO version. I don't know, they keep changing, but the point is there's a framework. And if CEOs are being guided by something like this, it's interesting. I do think what's interesting is the red versus the green. So, for instance, let's say 2026, we know it's a crazy time, it's wartime. What are the focus areas of coverage, for instance, from a research roadmap perspective? So I just found that helpful to see the changes in patterns there.
It's interesting working, I work with Gardner, and they use these boards, and then you go through each piece, and then you identify where those pain points are, and then you put plans together using the board.
What? Can you repeat that one more time?
No, the way they do these executive reviews is like you use the board when you meet with them, and then you identify the areas that you work through, and then that's like your whole game plan of working with them.
Yeah, it's like your roadmap. Yeah. Do you guys want to go back to your teams and start synthesizing, organizing, and we're going to hear sharebacks across the three groups? Yes. I don't know. A lot of CEOs probably. Yeah. Maybe. But it makes me wonder, is that the dissonance we experience?
Yeah, this is the CEO where I talk into the wind, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the delegate to the CPO.
Yeah.
Like I try to explain why
from Gartner.
The company the same way it's been operating for the rest of the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if we should make one for the tech CEO framework.
Business forum. Yeah. All right, go back to your groups. Start kind of taking this information. We're going to share out in a bit.
We did talk about it. Yeah, we talked about it.
It might be worth help separating skills versus the priorities, actions.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, let's bring your papers to the middle. Okay. Okay. Was that fun? Okay. I heard someone say that they felt angry after seeing some of the existing business frameworks and the quality bar is low. Lazy. Porvy, what was that sentiment you shared earlier?
Really? You want me to share? I did. I was looking at the chart with all of the arrows, and I was just telling Gordon it made me feel a little angry, a little frustrated, because I just felt like it was so general and non-specific to the tech organization. So, it's important, I think, that we get declarative and, to a degree, have a claim on things that, are uniquely designed. So that was just something that came up for me.
But it's also, I think, it's gone through the filter of Gartner, which is massively skewed and abstracted and simplified, and so in a way it's hand wavy, but it feels real because it's in a framework. Gartner.
All right.
It might be interesting to see if there's a group similar to this and something generated by actual operating CEOs.
Yeah. Oh, Eric?
Just to add on to what you were saying about Gartner, I think what's interesting about that Gartner list is that it is so generalized, and I think probably because it's got to meet so many different industries, but we here represent so many different industries, and I think we got a lot more specific, which makes me feel more comfortable, because when I look at that level of abstraction, I'm like, what do I do with that, right? Maybe I'm just more tangible.
I can appreciate the simplicity of it, though, right? You can debate when it's too simple, but
It's so simple that it becomes inactionable.
fair. But
I don't know.
Okay.
you could always make it more complex.
Yes. Well, group.
But specific would be maybe helpful. I don't know.
So the process for the next bit, Tanvi's going to live scribe. She's going to sit right there. She has a fig jam going. Group process innovation. Who's this? Come on up. Charizard. Group Charizard. Mega Charizard. All right.
Team?
All right, share with us your process, and Tommy's going to be live scribing, so we'll connect it off.
We thought it would be helpful to we kind of went in a circle as we went through this process, but we kind of developed a little bit of a framework as we came out of it. So there's 4 points that I'll go through kind of as a vertical, and then there's kind of 2 points as a horizontal. You like that? A framework for a framework. That's what we came out with. Starting with number 1, which we thought was the top level, is really around strategy and where we have input into the strategic process around product, business, organization, and talent. And what we started to see is this started to connect with everything, as well as around metrics, quality, culture change, performance. It became kind of an all-encompassing view on where we have input in the strategic process. And team, please jump in if I miss something. Second, where we focused was process innovation, one of the areas that we feel that we can really provide value. And some of the examples that we went through was, just general, business efficiency, effectiveness, the quality of our outcomes that are being driven through the business, shared understanding of quality and what is success to the business. And, just in general, like how we gain and share knowledge across the organization, almost kind of like a common vocabulary. From there, where did we go? Then we went to output quality, and really focusing on, what we're delivering, what the business is delivering as a key area. So you kind of see this as more of a sequential process from the planning through the execution. And I think that was important for us, is kind of showing that full span of all the inputs into the business, including as part of that design excellence, as the output, as being defined kind of what we deliver into our respective markets. And then from a horizontal view, what we really were focusing in on is the education and development of our teams and our skills. Specifically, some ideas we had, like Forrester's got like certifications that designate people completing a learning path. Is that something that we want to think about, some type of certifications? So there's something tangible about people's backgrounds and skill set, as well as like curated curriculums for apprenticeships, just to make sure folks are learning exactly what will prepare them to be successful in the business. And then finally, another area that, which is actually one of the areas we started, was just developing frameworks in general for the business. We were talking about like competitive frameworks, actually even reference like Gartner's Magic Quadrant or something kind of like that. Of course, like CX metrics, maturity frameworks, skill frameworks, and just kind of tagging along with our whole conversation around role convergence. This might be a really critical area to focus in on. Performance frameworks, of course, quality of experience, and just general business efficiency. Anything else to add?
Anyone have questions they want to ask to this group?
I would just say one thing, just like one higher level point is, like we were talking about as executives, as design executives, like it's our responsibility to really lean into the business and solve like organizational and business problems. It's not just about making the design org great and impactful, which, obviously is a big part of it, but like how do we, just help solve some of those broader business challenges.
Any questions, prompts, challenges? All right. You nailed it. The Christian Roar and others.
Yeah, we got
Group name.
We got a mic here. Hopefully you can see this from over here. I guess we were late to the clustering party, so we had a bit of a cluster.
Do you want to move the papers to the middle so we can see
Okay.
it? Yeah. Yes, temporarily.
So we came up with 6 clusters under the kind of rubric of what's potentially missing. The first one was surprising to see missing, which was really a whole bucket around insights, research, data, and with that we included measurable experience outcomes, really looking at how does information about humans that we're designing for come into what we do, and having a role in deciding and determining what are the ways that we get that information, whether it's through data, whether it's through direct qualitative research, whether it's through support metrics or creating experience outcomes, measurable experience outcomes. So that was the first cluster. That also included trends and experience understanding or market understanding. We wanted to avoid the word marketing. The second cluster was around, this is cluster B, prioritization and having an impact on how we use our resources and how they're deployed, making trade-offs. We can't do everything. How do we actually have a role in that based on things like customer impact or budget constraints, and then that fed into like how the organization was paid for, budgeted for, et cetera. The third cluster, cluster C, was around design operations, research operations as well, tooling, and we clustered talent management and growth with that. Although I really kind of like where the team one really thought about they thought about that maybe as a separate bucket. I think that might be a good call. It included training and certification, so +1 on you for doing that. The fourth one, D, was broadly described as facilitation or helping create a common understanding of what we're doing and why. And that comes through really both convergent and divergent activities. So in a divergent way, we act as provocateurs. We made up a word called provocateurship. So we want that to be put in the publication. But we also help create alignment. And we, when we go off and do our vision work, we bring people together back so they can see where we're going and create that alignment. Hopefully they see themselves in the work. And then we included design frameworks in that category. We, as in the bit, yeah. And what I would say about that one is it's, it does reflect essentially the diamond, the divergence and convergence, the kind of natural rhythm that we live and breathe all the time. And there was a debate as to whether we should include things like coming up with a vision and holistic solutions in silos, or was that its own cluster? But having the responsibility of seeing the big picture, not only for the end user or the customer and where they go across the customer journey, but also how are the parts of the organization working independently or separately or in silos and helping break those down to make the company more efficient. So that kind of idea of being holistically minded is something we feel is an important element of what design leadership does.
And one thing I wanted to add to that, thank you. One thing I wanted to add to that is that we've got one diamond there, and we talk about the facilitation, the whatever, divergent provocateurship, and then maybe creating frameworks and things like that. But then the second diamond is really the product or the solution, and how you cannot do this in a waterfall. You have to go, create this, you go through the first diamond, you go through the second diamond, you revisit the first diamond, because what you came up with is now totally going to influence what's happening in the first. So that's maybe a reason to bring them together, but they're also, two different
What do you call that? What do you call that?
Zooming in and zooming out, I don't know. Well, but it's a second diamond, right? Because, yeah, perhaps, like in computer science, right? It's like...
Is that continuous optimization?
Yeah, it is.
Continuous optimization.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Continuous discovery.
Yeah. Yeah, but the important part is not to just go in one direction. You have to revisit.
Multiple. Okay.
And then a final, wasn't final because it was near the beginning, we talked about the importance of being able to manage up and manage across. That came up. I think we talk about managing down and being able to develop your talent, but it seems to be an area that we called out as like, this is something we really have to pay more attention to. Design leaders are not as naturally, they're not natural corporate creatures. I'm reflecting a little bit back on the initial stories that everybody told when we first got together, and how much pain there really was in that, and how much tragedy there was in the kind of the living in this environment. It's not like we're in a place that we just flourish in, on our own, and we don't tend to be the ones that swim upstream that fast. But this group happens to be a group that's risen to a level that is exceptional, right? But somehow it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It's like swimming in salt water when you're a freshwater fish. So there it is. That's ours. Thank you.
Uh-oh. What do you call that last one?
Managing up, managing across.
Okay, managing up, managing across.
Maybe it's fish out of water.
Living in the estuary.
Yeah, and maybe creating the bed for the estuary is, yeah, just design and experience frameworks and systems. So that's probably one that we really do need to highlight in that overall grid because we are uniquely responsible for those and we enable the rest of the organization really through that. And that's driving efficiency, it's driving scale, but without that, we are actually just incredibly inefficient and fragmented. So yeah, a really critical piece too.
Let me thank you for, just a sec. Let me thank you for bringing that back up because when the group one talked about frameworks and you had talked about it in our discussion, I just suddenly realized how unique, that's one of our unique deliverables and I just underappreciated that. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, adding to that, one of the things we talked about was how much, because like for this, like we do design frameworks, but sometimes we build mental models and business frameworks, and sometimes we bring that to the table. One of the things we talked about in general is how much do we need to scope what is uniquely ours versus describing things that may have overlap. So I think that's a big theme for us to figure out when we come to a final product, like how differentiated are our activities versus how connected they are to the rest of the business.
That's it. Anybody? Next.
It might be interesting to think about where we own versus contribute.
Yeah.
Like designing, like there's an ownership part.
We need a framework for this.
Yeah, drivership.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Cindy, we did develop this. Okay. Let's add that. A kind of role. Okay. Yeah.
But not as good as
That's distinctly ours.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I think there's something about the I can't say it, provocateurship, because I do think there's a balance between like blowing up the space and derailing everything versus doing it very gracefully and thoughtfully.
That's why there's a ship at the end.
Yeah, okay.
See, the provocateur is the one that is
blows
the
shit,
needle,
okay.
but the provocateur ship is this,
The ambassador.
graceful way of
Ambassador.
yeah. You don't have it. It's like a craft. You don't really have it unless you got the ship at the end.
I mean, even getting to know, like, Jay, like, I think you do provocateurship in a very Jedi-like way. Smaller bombs. But that's a skill. That's a very important skill. Anything else, group?
Nope.
Great job. Yeah, thank you. Last one. I think it was Heather, Richard, Tom.
Say one thing. Oh no, I'm going to hand the mic over. It's a shared responsibility.
Yes.
I just want to, the first thing, I just want to point out the shape that people are thinking of. There's this
Okay.
one.
A,
There's
B,
this
1, 2, 3,
shape
4.
right here that you're,
Yeah.
this shape.
Okay, let's capture that, Tanvi.
And then we're thinking of one too here.
Spider charts. Okay, we have spider charts. We have a diamond with general. Okay. Okay. Spider charts. Jennifer, take the lead.
Okay. All right. So we okay. So we affinitized this and came up with 5 major kind of main themes, and we ended up listing them as verbs, actions. Like, what are the actions you have to take within that grouping? And then I love this. We didn't finish this, but I love the idea of here's the action. We drive all these things, and then what is the outcome? The action and the outcome. So we have things like brand expression, content craft, design craft, research craft. This is all about the quality of the execution that we're driving, and the outcome is to deliver quality. And I really liked the way that the group was kind of framing it like that. Inspired by the Gartner, everything was a verb. I think Cindy was saying that it was all. the Gartner. Right, everything was a verb, so there's something in there.
So CEOs don't do anything?
Envisioning, there was a discussion yesterday around future modeling. Like how do we not necessarily create vision, because vision is becoming such a heavily connotated word. How do we break out of that and do future modeling? And then I think Jay yesterday talked about looking around the corner. Like how do we reposition that? And then thought leadership. There's a whole theme around curating. So what are the different inputs that we curate and collect and edit and we create ourselves as well? So we're not just passively waiting for people to give us the inputs. We're creating environments that we can understand the inputs that we need and the insights. So those are from customer insights, strategic foresights, knowing the business. That's another input. Industry and cultural trend insights. I love this word from Heather, catalyze. Do you want to talk about catalyze? I love that word. Let's put a little
Heather,
TM.
explain catalyze.
And do you want to explain it?
I think about a lot of these things as, what do we have to do? What's the action? What's the energy? Right? And so catalyzing is very much about not what I'm doing, but what I'm initiating and doing to initiate in someone else. Because ultimately, as leaders, a lot of the times that's where our work is.
I feel like that's even stronger than alignment. We use alignment a lot, but I love that. Yeah.
And sort of what you're just
Yeah.
leadership is not about, it's about bridging, influence, and impacting.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of sort of objectives under that verb.
Christian, can you
Silo breaking, culture change. I thought this one was really, really strong and not talked about enough, which is EQ. This room, I think designers have the highest EQ because we design through empathy, so we already have the tools to be able to understand. Even when we're sitting in a contentious meeting with somebody who's triggered, how do you show up as the adult in the room and listen to them? And like we are the best at bringing that to the table and modeling that for the teams. So
Make the note about adaptability, the adaptability quotient.
Been hearing a lot lately that beyond EQ, there's something called AQ. Sometimes it's agility, sometimes it's adaptability. I like adaptability better because I think it makes more sense, especially in time of turbulent change. It's really key to cultivate that kind of skill, if you will.
And then does somebody want to talk about SQ, social intelligence? All of it we rock, basically. Communicate also with the outcome to inform and influence. What are the ways, the tools that we can communicate effectively, set expectations, get people excited about a vision, do the storytelling, even like taking reporting and making it inspirational and communicating the right thing to the right people to influence through the organization. And then share and run. This is all about operationalizing. How do you execute on all of this? The like portfolio management, budget management, metrics, journey management, shape and run.
Shape and run.
Risk management. I think this was supposed to not be. This is one of them inside of here. Risk management, even though it's blue. Somebody broke the pattern.
Is the adaptability one, we didn't fully capture that. What do we miss? Something adaptability, emotional, EQ,
Yeah,
SQ.
AQ, EQ, SQ, so adaptability, emotional intelligence, social intelligence.
And the action on that is being really truly is catalyzing.
Catalyze.
Yeah.
Oh, that's part of that one. Okay.
I'm imagining that this is how we show up in a cross-functional way.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Modeling it, yes.
You guys want to do the little S curve we got going, flow?
Oh, yeah, so this was one framework and then S
Yeah, so we
For-
kind of like, you can curate,
from here.
get all the insights, have a fun
and then run.
The S model is more the journey of all those insights, so it's a separate.
Cool. He's going to explain it, and then I'm going to add on to it.
Oh, no. Okay, so this is just looks like an S, but it's not an S curve. An S curve, you guys know what an S curve is. Okay, so S curve, there's a Y and X axis, and it looks like a snake. It looks like a snake. It looks like a snake. And well, yeah, okay, but that's important. I'll tell you why that's important. I have this talk on curves, so I won't bore you with that one. But it's actually, I'll try to introduce 3 ideas, if Gordon lets me. Yeah, so the first one actually is a parabola. You guys want it upside down U? I just do it. It's just good.
Do you need to hold anything else?
No, let's give it multiple. This is the sobering. This is what happens. You start and you end. Okay, so that's how life works, right? So, but it's kind of sobering. But so this is a model. You learn in algebra, don't really use it, but that's what happens. In business, everything feels it's an upward motion because you're thinking about growth and actually dollar sign. So there's a bit of a biasness to this. But the whole idea is when you start out, it might be a little bit slower. You can do this with organization as well, or career. You form, storm, and norm, and then you perform, and then you will adjourn. So you end up here. Good, please.
Okay, here's my ad.
Yeah,
Microphone.
My ad to this.
please. The double S curve. Oh, sorry.
All right, my add to this is something that came from my coach, which is this, which is actually how change happens through your life, which is that you form, you're born, you start to mature, you reach a tipping point of maturity where whether it's internal, external forces, things aren't working the way they could be optimally. And so you go through this point of creative destruction where you're deciding what to keep and what to let go in order to then reform and rebirth and grow, which actually ends up looking like this.
Whoa.
And
Cycle of life and death.
And this was how my coach helped describe a way to bring teams through difficult change where this is not about a cliff or an ending, but this is a conscious choice that helps you decide how you're going to show up in the next chapter with new inspiration, new influences, and that you can keep doing these cycles.
Is this Heather?
So this is really good because it kind of gets into a cultural clash. This is more Eastern in concept. And I want to tie this up because this is really good. Because the linear part is this. It's very Western, achievement-oriented. So then we do a double S-curve to show disruption. But usually, what happens is, this is really hard to understand, right? This is actually a higher conceptual model to understand for most folks. But what happens is, because you're looking in time, you're always looking for progress. So even here, the blind spot is, even though when you're looking at it on the third-person perspective, you don't see this, the valley, you see the growth. So going back to humanity, do you know Kurt Vonnegut? He's an author. So he has a beautiful 1-minute talk about shape of stories. I'll share with you. He'll say, the axes are different. This is the fortune index. Okay, so this is good fortune, this is ill fortune. And then there is start, and actually he uses infinity right here. And he'll say, most stories, why not start the person with some good fortune There's no reason to start with bad fortune. The person falls in a hole, doesn't have to be a hole. The person gets out of a hole, people love this story, right? Very simple. Why do I like this? It actually talks about the valley, and this is a better view of this. And in math, you talk about local maximum to global maximum. Again, you don't see the valley, you see the small hill you're on and the hill you want to go to. It's this view. So I think it's important to understand this view, but ultimately, when you do that, you can reborn.
Yeah, and
right?
it's
So that's why I want to connect it back.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it, 'cause it's describing that.
It's the same thing. This is just more conceptual, so it's harder for people to get. So I don't stay here to be a doomer, but I think you have to contemplate it to know where you want to go. Because your trajectory, this is tragedy. And then you'll know where you can go, right? And you have control of some of it, you don't have control of all of it. Yeah, anyways.
So can I think we all have the philosophical guide to design transition.
Yes.
Next publication.
It made me think of a phoenix. So we captured, is there anyone else? Anything else? Tanvi, do you want to show us what you've captured? Oh, okay. So we have all these on the board now. We're going to have to do the hard work of organizing and reporting back Yes, we're going to be doing that. We should switch to the next session because it's now currently 10:45. We have about an hour, 15 minutes left. If you guys need a quick break, coffee, water, before we toggle switch into the next section. But was this a fun exercise?
So good.
Okay, awesome. Anything you want us to keep in mind as we go through this process, other than the infinity cycle of life? That was really helpful.
I'd say don't try to be Gartner.
Be? Don't be. Okay, don't be.
Don't try that. That's not the target outcome.
No.
That is an existing model, but if we land there, I think we can miss the point. I think we can try
That's a great call out.
a slightly
Yeah.
different framing.
And I think it's great to go have something pithy as maybe the first view, but don't lose the detail and the texture.
I think specificity was a word that
Yeah. Yeah, Tanvi, I think we're going to have to comb the specifics so we don't lose track. Okay. Jess, I know we were recording this. Will we get some clips of the audio based on the microphone? Okay. So we have a time machine to look back and not miss the details. Okay. Sorry, can you just elaborate so we're super clear? When you say don't be a Gartner, what is that?
The don't be a Gardener means don't build the example like Gartner has, because it's targeted for a different audience. It's targeted for people who aren't CEOs, who don't understand the world, who want an abstracted, simplified, universal view, and it's a framework for abstraction. It's not a framework for understanding. It's trying to be a management consultancy, and if the output that we create is a design management consultancy, it's kind of not as interesting. I think we kind of missed the point.
Provocateurship, yeah. No, I agree with so much of what you said, Matt, and I think that, Heather, you were also touching on don't lose the texture and the detail underneath. I do think that, part of the emotion that came up for me when I was initially seeing the CEO view and the CTO view was around, again, just the detail, the accountability, the specificity on where do we draw the lines between, say, technology as the leading function and the very unique value proposition that we bring to the table. And so having something to go a little bit toe-to-toe isn't, in my opinion, a bad thing. I also don't want to, how we use it as a group may or may not be the same way that we would That's right, exactly. And so something in there for me is a little bit of like, who is the audience and what are we creating for? And is there a version that does sit vis-a-vis some of these? So as we are often in our forums, depending on the stage of business you're in, depending on the stage of maturity, you might actually get a lot of value. I might get a lot of value in my stage of being able to compare apples to apples, of like, this is where these types of leaders or, you know, kind of accountability is, and this is where the unique position of our function is. And so I think just that correlation is really helpful, but I do agree there's something deeper as well.
Very important if we're compared with them, point of view.
Yeah, I think knowing our audience for this will be really important, or maybe having two audiences, an internal one and an external one, and then you asked for advice on what we should think of. I just want to make sure that the external one doesn't sound like, hey, you know, this is what we're doing, and it's more like a complaint or a wish list of things that we wish we were in charge of. Instead, and I like this accountability term much better, because then it's like, okay, well then I can assign this to you and I can forget about it, or I can rely on you to deliver. Yeah, that's all.
I'll contradict myself in a way. We did a bunch of work years ago with Stanley McChrystal, if you're all familiar with, is another version of Gartner, but a much more like, came out of the US military. And one of the really interesting deep dives we did as a leadership team was an accountability matrix across all the different functions. So it's in a way, it's not a toe to toe, it's how do they fit together? Like, how does one support another? Because they don't work in isolation. And the Gartners of the world I see them looking at things as isolated and in opposition to one another versus shared accountability towards an outcome. And I think that's the core tension that I have with that mental model, is that it's them and versus them versus them versus them. Now you compare versus how do we work together towards a thing? And I think that framework, as more of a collaborative model, actually frames things in a way that I think is really productive.
Can you share that work before, or is it still? Yeah. I thought, Fabricio, it would be interesting, actually. It made me think, because you did this work in a McKinsey world. You've produced it, so I'm curious to hear a little bit of texture, maybe, of, yeah, the business value and the connection here. Would that be cool?
I can describe the work that we did there back in the day, but I think it's interesting also if you have questions about it, because then I can be more specific to like the point. So I think maybe to start with the background of that work at the time, I don't know if you are familiar with, there was this graph that was created by the Design Council in the UK. There was a correlation of companies that value design and their growth and their value in the market through like 10 years or something like that. And that work was actually, from a quantitative perspective, was very bad, because it was basically just selecting companies that they thought, right, the Design Council, that they were good in design, like Coca-Cola or Nike or whatever, and then seeing that through time, and then from a quantitative perspective, was very poor. And we started a discussion on like, what does it mean if McKinsey did that at that time, but in a way that we had much more robust data, right, and a much more structured process to go through it. So we discussed a lot of different ways of approaching it, and we came up with this idea of listing practices, like design practices, that obviously correlate with a lot of stuff that we're talking about, like good research, prototyping, experimentation, catalyzing groups of people, whatever. So we came up with a list of, if I remember right, was 96 different practices. Then we reduced a little bit to like 60 practices, and selected companies that had their information open in the stock market, so we could track that information through time, the value of these companies in the market. And we got in contact with these companies, which was roughly over 300 companies, and asked them to fill it out. So the survey actually was very hard to go through, because in the end, from the 96, I think we were left with like 60 different practices, and each one had, like, you had to define like from very low to like very high, how the company does it. And then we took all that data. So McKinsey has a team of data analysts in India. So basically they were data scientists, data analysts, so they crushed through all this data to see if the companies, broke down the companies in quartiles, and then identified if there was a correlation between the high up practices and the success of those companies. And then the result, I think someone's put it there. So the result was this chart, which is quite interesting, because from the quartiles, you see that, so revenue is one thing, total return to shareholders is the other thing. From a revenue perspective and the TRS perspective, and that's independent of industry. So we actually selected, but it was a whole process behind, it's like, what are the industries that you select, right, to do this? So it was like one that was service-oriented, one that was manufacturing-oriented, and it had financial services, right? So it was consumer. So the idea was to have like a span of like data that was very broad, like consumer, medical, retail, and you see that there are some differences, right, when you look at the industry, but the average is actually the same. So if you go back to the other chart, and so this is super interesting, because basically what it says is if you're not in the top quartile, you have incremental gains, right? It's like, and from that you can start like having all this interesting conversations and insights, right, from the data. So if you look at the whole study, then you can break it down by industry and so on and so forth. And I think at least this was terrible, right? The representation of the value of design, I think, was horrible. But I think in the there was a whole discussion around it. I'm not responsible for that representation. But then the interesting thing is that based on that, you can come up with this framework, right? So it's like continuous iteration. There was a run about the like talent and practices and so on and so forth. And I think it was very interesting because it was the first that we funnily enough, I don't know if maybe some of you had the same feeling. We got a lot of praise, but a lot of criticism in the industry, because I think it was the first study that was so like trying to be so analytical about the outcomes and the way that our practices and ways of work, that people felt, some people thought that was really good because it was a way of having conversations with non-designers about design and the value of design. Actually, there's a story about the ROI part. But then other people felt that it was just compartmentalizing or packaging too much, right, what design was, and that it didn't feel good. One other thing I think that's interesting to share is this chart from the Design Council was in a way an attempt to talk about the ROI of design, right, because of the correlation of value of the company. And then before actually going to the approach, we had a big discussion of like, what does it mean to communicate ROI, right? And you can do that in so many different, from very tactical ways, right? Sales, whatever, growth, but from a kind of board and CEO perspective, always talking about the value of the company, right? And the value of the stock, and seeing that through time is one of the best ways, because that's the ultimate outcome of all those conversations. So that we thought that it was the best way to do it. But anyway, I think it was a very interesting exercise. I think, at least for me, it was kind of a shift, I think, from the previous discussions around like the value of design and everything else. And then just a last comment, at the time also we had discussions on like what's next, right? After you do a study like this, like what do you focus on? And then the next one was on the role of the chief design officer and try to kind of define what it is and so on and so forth. But I think it was not as industry changing as this one, because I think then it's like, I think we probably are more empowered to do something like this at this point in time, because even some of the people that were part of this study are not at McKinsey anymore. You know, it changed a lot. And I think also, just one last comment, another last comment. I think the other thing is, I think having McKinsey do it, I think it was an interesting thing, right? Because nobody was expecting that. And it was such like a stamp on it, like, okay, now everybody talks about, and I see that even like CEOs of companies and kind of senior leaders that are non-design leaders have seen it, right? And have read it, yeah.
Funny enough, this study was one of the core source materials for my graduate work that led to this, because I was like reading that chart where there's such a huge gap between CEO and design contributions. I was just like, well, what can I do to help close that gap? So say what you will, but it was a lot of power at that time of like, there was one study that finally did it. So there's a big question of like, assuming this kind of 360 infinity Phoenix S-curve thing comes alive, like what is that research and data that helps you guys further the investment and defend the investment?
I think that helped legitimize it.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah.
Even for like myself, like because of what it said, like McKinsey did, right? It wasn't a design work
Yeah.
that wrote something about it. So it was very helpful.
And the audience was not designed.
Right. That's what I loved about it. It was like,
The whole process was made that way.
Yeah, Gordon and I have like chatted a little bit about exactly that. I've gotten so much runway from this article, by the way. I was sent it to like tens and tens and maybe like almost close to 50, 60 people in different positions of leadership so that they understand and get that context a little bit more, because it is an intangible. And when you're educating, it's, I think, so critical to have data to back it up. I do wonder in this moment, though, as we're thinking about going from a lot of these insights and the collective brain trust in this room, you know, that notion of legitimacy, or kind of what is that, like obviously this room has a lot of power to it, but when it's design to the world, is there something different than when it's, you know, another organization? And is there a partnership model that we need to consider, you know, in terms of publishing a thought leadership piece that is coming at that moment of being able to have the grounding in, again, the business? And so we've talked about, like, is it, you know, HBR, but like what is it in this moment for us? But I do think us getting crystallized on what are the stories we want to tell now, I think will help us hone in on how do we ensure it's got the greatest kind of impact possible.
I love that, because we're like influencing, I don't know, we all have pretty loud voices, but I love that because it's a way for us to influence like the broader business world together, and to make it like less hard individually as we're all doing the fight internally.
Yeah. And the question is like, why not McKinsey, right? Like, because McKinsey could be a partner for this. Because I think, again, if I look from like someone that it is in a, like, you know, most of you, like, or all of you, like in large organizations, they have this like executive structure and all that. I think the CEO or the board or the board of advisors, they're looking into very few companies, right? And I think McKinsey has a lot of still, like in the world, like even with all the change in consulting, whatever, it has a lot of respect from these people. And I think the challenge is to find like what other ones, right, that had that type of Yeah, or Harvard Business Review. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's a few. There's like probably a handful, right?
Yeah. We've not spoken to McKinsey, but Harvard Business School actually got in touch with us to develop some sort of case study, HBR connection point, because they're looking for enterprise insights from a design lens, because they're also engaging CIAOs and CEOs, and they're looking for like, what's that missing perspective? They did come to us to say, could your members fund a 50,000? And forum, I don't think that makes sense. So we've now entered a different negotiation to see if like we could do a more feeding them knowledge perspective. So we're exploring what that looks like. But yeah, if that's something you're very passionate, please let me know, because I'm always looking to activate that channel. This actually brings me to this next section. We have 1 hour left together. If you need coffee, water, snacks have arrived as well. But I thought I'd jump to these two kind of frames. I just want to show you what I have in preview here. So the first one is enterprise learning, and we can kind of prioritize what feels right. But the two audiences, to your point, who are we really influencing, is like, is it our teams first? Is there a sequencing? And so the one that I kind of prepared here is, are there design leadership, learning development needs that we're trying to serve? I think this 360 outlook gets at one of those dimensions if you think from a team perspective. Another dimension of that 360 is taking it to the business forum level, where it's asking questions of, like, what is that intersection between our members and your stakeholders at the business level? And so one of the things I've been thinking about is, these questions of how might we help you better influence and partner with your business leaders? And one of the things that we've been trying to clarify and struggle with is like, who are we really writing for? Our research, is it to gear it towards your business stakeholder? Is it to your teams? Is it to, so that we're trying to clarify these statements. Yeah, Heather? More opportunity.
We're all taking, thank you, we're all taking, AI and looking for problems to solve with it. So like, I think it's just another moment in time where, we do need to just recalibrate a little bit.
And I seriously don't mean to be nitpicking words, but it's about the intention of this. I get the sense that we've come a long way in just even having these positions, and so this would make me feel better if it was more like, how might we maximize influence and partnership with our business leaders?
Amplify. Yeah, maximize, amplify, yeah.
I think the one, I love that maximize piece of it. I think that's spot on. But I also would want to figure out how to make it more sustainable, right? Like, so that it's sticky regardless of the personality that's in the seat. Right? And so if you can integrate it within like the DNA of this is how we do it. And it's not just, I just have a great relationship with the CEO and so everything is working. But boy, when that changes, it can change. Yeah.
I think longevity is a really important thing, but it brings up then a level of consistency that needs to happen when we have succession planning or regime change, right? And it's like, that's great. Like, you have all those skills, rock on. And you have the CEO's ear, and then your successor comes in, not worthy, let's just say. And then the whole thing collapses. So there, and maybe that's one value we can bring to the industry or to our discipline of design executives, of like, what is the minimum bar? Like, what is the quality level that is going to be able to replace you when you decide to leave?
So I'm curious, just from a sensing perspective, there's kind of the maximizing and sustaining the business influence dimension, and then there is looking, to your teams is their enablement and acceleration. So curious to kind of sense like which directions feel like a worthy conversation? Or does one serve the other?
The team will benefit from all of it, right?
Yes.
Like anything that we provide to our peers works down. We don't have to, the things we build for down will work up.
That's true.
There's also the influencing the future of what we're looking for. Like, I don't know if this is what you were getting at, but like, there's influencing, maximizing influence. We've been influencing and maximizing it, but there's like, things are gonna change and our ability to influence that change, like how our role evolves.
Sorry. I know. Yeah, just as we're thinking about this moment in time of roles converging and collapsing too, I just feel like there is a really unique moment that we're in that we need to address that continues to put experience at the front and center of the future, which I think, again, like we have to put a stake in the sand in now, because if we don't, others are gonna have that narrative for us.
Do you guys think, I know this is called Design Executive 360, but my sensing this past year is hearing your growth and responsibilities, the fact that you now have design executives under you, maybe even product. Is that actually Design Executive 360, or is it like Experience Executive 360 with design as one of the core pillars?
I think it depends on what our titles are, honestly, because like, there is a, sorry, my mouth is full again. This time it's a kind bar. Again, crunchy, yummy things. Holy moly.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you
bring
for
it
being
back.
patient with me
Partnership.
while I'm chewing. No, I actually think like, do we have CXOs in the room or do we have CDOs in the room? And I think like, what is that word in the title? Because I think that matters. And I don't mean to, I do think we're expanding into the notion of experience, right? But I do think we have a specific role that we're playing within the organization and a specific mental model to adhere to a degree.
I like the provocation of expanding to experience. Sorry, I was just going to double down on that. I like this idea of expanding to experience, because I think design, first of all, has a lot of predefined kind of perceptions of what the design is, and I think ultimately it is about the experience, right? It doesn't matter if it's like digital, physical, whatever, right? I think it's a much more powerful, much more broad way.
I mean, even in your title for BC, you've added design and experience deliberately, right? And yeah, okay. Brian too, yep. And then there's like the brand side. So is this statement better formed now?
Yes, that's a really nice change.
Maximize, sustain influence with your business leaders and partners. What would something,
The only other thing I would note is you specifically is about an individual versus systemic value. Yeah.
Systemic.
Does that make sense? We talked about succession planning. We talked about being beyond the individual who has the relationship. So that would be the only other observation, but I think it's fine.
What would be, okay.
You the role or you the field, I don't know. Yeah.
So just take the word you out.
Help
I
the
don't think
role.
we need to spend extra time on that. It's just an
Oh,
observation.
okay.
Yeah.
It's just a systemic lens. All right. Let me flip to the next, just to show you guys. So this is just some insights I pulled. Yeah. Like for instance, on the second one, this is something we were gathering from our CFO fireside. They were like, if you can come more ready with benchmarks and insights to inform how CFOs approach some of those that would be really valuable because we respond to those numbers, especially if they're from benchmarks we respect. The first one, sharing this from a member insight, this is kind of a context where as companies start to hire chief design officers or related roles, how are they upping their ability to maximize the role value, and also thinking from succession planning perspective as well. The third one, I think about, if CEOs are starting to think about that concern about reinvention, and if a design executive has a very distinct role in that exercise, how do they learn best practices around how companies are reinventing and going through that strategic exercise? So that's kind of just like some really high-level insights of thinking, like, what are those things that fit under that kind of umbrella of this relationship area? And it may not just be C-suite, but also just business cross-functional partners. So, an instance is like, as we build our case studies, I think about like, right now all our events are design executives only. Is there a forum for something beyond that? I keep hearing, in these business forums, you could be showing and sharing how design executive and business leaders are driving enterprise growth, navigating risk, new cost structures, and there's a new way to learn about, enterprise success through that lens. So I'm curious to what you guys are saying, because I know yesterday we had some conversation about who's this for, who should be at these forums. Maybe there is a members-only spot, but there's a maybe expansion area to business leaders. So we'd love to hear any thoughts of like what could be valuable to maximizing and sustaining that influence.
Sorry, I just had a take your dog to work moment with our managers. Like where we all bring our dogs, but they're our leaders.
Are we the dogs?
We talked a little bit about whatever output that we have from that last activity being validated by like a McKinsey or a HBR, right? What if it was validated or stamped by a group of CEOs?
Like a
for
business
example,
council.
right? Yeah.
Interesting.
So if our outputs were a little more coming from a different voice and not just internally from the council, but were somehow validated or co-sponsored.
Yeah. Co-sponsored research, okay.
What are some of the big CEO councils we could partner with on something like that? Like what exists today and how do we drive a little bit of deeper partnership there, both in terms of outside-in learning? Like I'd love to hear from a panel of them in terms of what's top of mind for them when it comes to experience-related topics. Like how are they thinking about it? I think we need a little bit of that honing for our own kind of direction and framing as well. I think we all know within our own context, but I get curious because they talk to each other.
Yeah, the unfiltered view of that would be cool, because we're going to get the the corporate answer of how important our function is all the time that everyone else gets. Right?
Do we have a list of all of the other memberships or councils we're part of? Do you have a list of all of the different things we get to participate in from that perspective so that you could possibly pick from that list, or we could look at it and say, like World AI 50 or World 50 AI is one that, yeah, but I think I feel like we just need a series of lists of like, list of the things each of us runs, lists of things each of us participates in, lists of things that just.
That would be valuable data. So because I'm Captain Dow Jones and we own the Wall Street Journal, we do actually have what's called the Wall Street Journal Leadership Institute, which has the CEO Council, the Chief Information Officer Council, and these are all groups that Wall Street Journal will actually get together for summits similar to this one. It could be an interesting partnership if we could connect us with them. There's the guy who runs those, his name is Alan Murray. He's a former editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal. I think that like I hate to use the word synergies. The synergies are pretty clear, actually. So I actually pinged him that I was going to this and told him about this group. So because I thought this might actually be something that could be an interesting partnership. So yeah.
But I think to connect the points that we're talking about, like having the CEOs talk about it and kind of the studies like this, I think it's important to have data, right? Case studies, like stories, because these other leaders, right, that we're talking about, they are not us. they tend to be very analytical and very pragmatic, right? So it doesn't, I think one way is through like forums like this, right? Because you have the influence, but I think it will lack the kind of the meat, right? If we don't have the data that backs it up in a way that takes that study, that McKinsey study, and goes to another level, right? And show like stories of success, stories of growth, stories of value creation, stories of, and so on and so forth, right?
I think that comes back to the influence word as well in the previous one, which I've been kind of just thinking about for the last 5 or 10 minutes and struggling with a little bit because, we might get a panel of CEOs in here and they'll talk about, hey, we really believe in design and, customer-centric thinking and stuff like that. But their ability to actually make decisions based around customer centricity or design is very limited because most of them are beholden to a stock price and the market dynamics of their organization and their risk profile that they're willing to take for their career in the next 2 or 3 years. And the same is true for a lot of our business partners at the lower than the CEO level as well, right? We can influence all we like. They may be, yeah, I hear you, I get it. I just can't make that decision, right? I cannot prioritize it that way. So I think we need to find ways to go, as Fabrizio was saying, beyond influence and more how can we help them make decisions that are better for them, right? By the application of, customer-centric thinking. And again, it's tricky, right? Because I think in my experience, a lot of this comes down to time horizons. We talked about this over the last couple of days, right? Like people in these positions, whether it's a CEO or a lower level, are typically making decisions for a more immediate time horizon than the decisions we would have them make or think about, which are generally a longer time horizon. Maybe some exceptions, but that is generally a trend I've seen, right? I don't have an answer for it, but I think it goes beyond influence.
Does the part about the Navigator help connect a more practical dot to that, or what sort of?
What are you trying to achieve?
He's asking, what do we want to achieve?
Yeah. What's the problem?
My question is, on one hand, you have practical resources for people in the seat. The second question to me is, how do you leverage this as an amplifier to help them achieve those goals?
Then?
This group.
Right, but why are we trying to, what is this section about? What are we trying to achieve? For the C-suite? Or CEO?
It's more, right now the roadmap for the council is focus on our members specifically, and the audience is only our members. Sometimes the research will go out there and hit all sorts of different audiences. We've invited certain people. So it's more of an ask to help us understand, are there new event forums, audiences? How do we direct something like a 360? Or is it just, we're going to provide this to you guys, and you guys use it to your advantage in your own unique ways? Is there any way we can concentrate that amplification back? So more of a discovery question to just grok at this audience.
No, I think...
Well, I was just thinking about the problem we're trying to solve. Is the problem we're trying to solve to validate some of the thinking that we've done over the last few days, or is the problem we're trying to solve to further elevate the world's understanding of the importance of experience? I'm going to just call it that.
I think yes to the latter. I was just thinking about the goal that you set out for the council and why I'm part of it. And it's to, as you put it, look at that gap between what did you express it as just moments ago?
There's like a strategic gap between CEOs and...
Yeah, and from my perspective, the world would be a better place if we used our approach and our thinking into the design of businesses, products, and experiences. And so, to me, that's making the world a better place. So, that said, what does this group do? Well, I would like the Design Executive Council to be supporting its members and an advocacy group to make the world a better place, meaning publish the information to those leaders that, and sort of like soften the audience a little bit, so that when we come internally and say like, hey, we should be doing these things, they're already thinking, oh yeah, like I've read that, that's true. Here's how this helps me.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was going to say, like, I have a slightly different perspective. Not so different, but slightly. Because I think it's, there is, I think the problem that we're trying to solve is, I think when there were studies like this one from McKinsey, I think it was good, right? Because it went around, and then other people read it, and then like CEOs, whatever, read it. And I think we're lacking that. I think it is a problem, because we don't have that as often and as much as I would love to see, because things are changing so fast, right? And then there's all the like, if I try to bring to my situation where I have more context, I know that my CEO thinks it's important to be customer-centric, and he thinks it's important to have great experiences. But it doesn't have a lot of depth into that, right? And I think like through HBR, like via the council, through like this other partners, we can keep the conversation going. Like it's always on type conversation. It's not something that's done just once and there's a study. And I think there will be potentially right now, we're talking about Gen AI. And then there is a study that says, like a case study showing like how design experience leaders like use Gen AI in their companies and created, and I'm gonna be very cheesy about it, like created value and improved performance, you know? And these things like we need to be constantly doing, I think, because otherwise it's just, it's very easy for like, it goes by, it's like 6 months and then like they're not thinking about design or experience anymore, they're thinking about something else. So I think having that on a regular basis, so I have...
So it's about partnering with channels that CEOs or business leaders are already cued into, trust, and then it's continuous.
And I think, oh, thank you. Yeah, I think, Richard, to your point, like that's top of mind for me too, which is I think that sort of steady drumbeat through that credibility of industry-wide education, then when we're making decisions on short-term gains, which we know that's how, you know, our partners and leaders function, it enables them to have a little bit more of that consideration. So ideally over time, we're getting to a more tangible, human-centered decision-making influence at scale. So, you know, I don't think it's gonna be something we're solving this year, but I'm hoping that if we align the right types of cadence and partnerships and communication and data, I think we can get there over time.
I think as well, there's a tendency for our CEOs and leaders to say, well, yes, you know, customer centricity is important. That's great. But what is it more important than? Right? Or what is it less important than? And that might change at different times, you know, it might vary. But I think finding ways to juxtapose it against different things to help them understand what they're already prioritizing and what they're already saying is super important, and comparing it and contrasting it, like, you know, in your list of priorities, where should it go? The 1 through N, not the 5 things at the top thing, but 1 through N, where does this go at this moment? And then where does it go at the next month and the next month and the next month? And having that conversation, I think, and finding tools and mechanics to have that facilitate those conversations would be helpful.
And we shouldn't be naive. I mean, marketers do that, technologists do that. Like I mean, I think we need to do that as well.
So it's like in relative to what, right? Okay. I mean, if you think about just like their policy priorities right now, we're like in relative to that, right? Stuff like that. Okay. So one action item I think I can note here is think about maybe channel partnerships that have trusted forums for our kind of CEO. Is there any other key stakeholder groups you guys want us to investigate in? Or is that kind of the start?
Do we have a clear understanding of a quick poll of where folks in this room report to? Because I think, you know, if there's a lot of us reporting to a CIO versus a CPO, there might be some adjacencies there. I think that matters too.
I was going to add technology as well, like very senior technology leaders.
What we could do after this summit, we could do kind of a census survey. I think that would get reporting lines, functional, and then all feed into the kind of the direction of the outreach. We do. Okay. Anything else on this? Okay. I have a lot of homework. Oh, yes. Quick question. I wanted to ask, so we're also trying to figure out how to get the information to you in the best ways possible. Are you guys getting my emails?
Yes, should we respond and say acknowledged?
No, I can now see open rates and click rates. So I'm just making sure.
So are we getting your emails?
Well, I'm just double checking. Okay. All right.
What is the open rate?
Like it's about 80%. Yeah.
That's very high.
Yeah. Are you guys all on WhatsApp? I see I know you're in there, but is it the right? Okay. So keep that going. Okay, we're not switching, just to let you know.
Actually, it's been pretty successful, I thought.
Okay. All right.
Right? Like I see conversations going on. In fact, my worry is that the conversations get too big and too diverse, and we need subgroups.
We have subgroups.
Yeah, I know that we have subgroups, but like it's like the hiring one, and it's like you yell something out, and then like someone's like, yeah, me too, and then like there's like 5 people in there all saying me too, and then that's it.
Okay. If you want other subgroups, let me know. We can easily create them. We just created a women in DXC subgroup that was stimulated by, I think, Purvi the other day at dinner, so that's live now. There's probably something about this CEO forum or kind of channel partnerships dimension. I do want to clarify this because this has been a request, but you know, some of our members have signed up to get more support on sharing our research to their teams. So I do want to understand this dimension because some members are kind of funding this direction. So this is something I hear often. It's a lot of work to maintain L&D as much as curating the right quality resources. I think there's a whole slew of things out there, but not a lot of them are vetted through a design executive lens. So teams end up learning things that are just kind of the Wild West, and what's the rigor in that. So kind of point number 1. Point number 2 is cross-company learning insights as well, is how are other teams to stretch their creativity, their boundaries of how they're thinking to really accelerate the way they can lead. And then 3, I heard from some members saying, like, is there ways to sponsor some of my top leaders to attend certain, specific DXC events? So that's also been an ask. So I just wanted to ask this question, and also I know some members here are part of this experimental enterprise learning kind of tier that we've been playing with. So this was kind of the prompt here. How might we address design leadership L&D needs in your organization? As you know, based on yesterday, you saw there's a inventory of publications and research that we're making, turning them to decks and then soon to test workshops. We've also seen some members trade guest speaking slots to help one another inject inspiration into their organizations.
I think that's a really cool idea. I didn't know that was happening.
Oh, like a speakers
cool.
exchange basically between members. Okay.
Yeah, Christina and I speak to each other's teams a lot.
Okay. I know, Purvi, you hired actually several members before. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Okay, so let's note speakers kind of exchange. So yeah, I wanted to just get this floated and kind of hear all our firesides and webinars have to date been targeted at our members. So I'm just kind of asking this question, is there anything that you guys are looking for in terms of helping unlock your team's strategic design leadership practices?
I think it would be, sorry.
A quick comment. I think someone mentioned the next line of leaders. I think that would be super beneficial. Because if we can train them.
Like direct reports?
Direct reports, probably closely correlated. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I want to up-level my leaders. Yeah.
I'm curious about the mentorship.
And I love that idea too.
So they
Yeah.
can like get what we're getting, but if they're.
Oh, like for them to network with one another. Okay.
Doing this exercise from a 360 perspective for our direct reports of what we, would expect to see them focusing on would be interesting.
Like director priorities.
We have so much research, though. Like, I also kind of wonder, like, how do we maximize some of what we have? And is there some sort of model where those that might be engaged in one of the thought leadership pieces is able to do a more open-ended panel, and it can be virtual, where our leaders are able to join and engage and ask questions and hear it, so to speak, from the horse's mouth. Like, I do think a little bit of like, you're a small operation, Gordon, and I'm like, just how do we maximize what we're doing and drive scale through that?
Yeah, something. I just posted in the group. I don't know if you've all seen the IF Design Academy. I actually, the person that's leading it, we worked together at the IDEO, and then she got in contact with me. And it's not because of her. I thought it was interesting what they're doing. They focus their program in leadership, influence in the company, things that I think it's not for us. It's like for people in our team. It's kind of like middle management, I think, type of education. But I thought it was quite interesting because it's been a long time that I don't see programs for design education that are so deeply thought through in the sense of like how these leaders should act in a world like today, like through influence, like building better teams, that kind of stuff. And I think we can do so much. And I think honestly, it could be even a good source of revenue for their program for. I think each one is like $3,000 or something. And it was really well crafted, I think.
I just spoke and Doug Powell leads it, which is pretty cool. But I think it gets at all the stuff, and you've heard me say this a couple times, that they don't teach in design school, right? It's curated that way of just, and also just, I realized I was providing insights of stuff that I do not want them to go through, that I wish someone would have told me, right? And so I think you're right, it's really interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see where it goes and kind of where Doug takes it, but I thought it was very, very well kind of curated.
I've hired actually Doug a couple times.
Sure, yeah.
To my senior managers and directors.
Yep.
We've done like multi-week programs that are just learning and discussion spaces for
Sure.
that real time.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, like, is there something, like, can we cross-share a little bit of what's
Yeah.
going on there in terms of just shoring up that next level of design leader? What are we using? How are we going about it? And are there, again, opportunities to just, like, we've got speaker kind of exchange a little bit? Like,
Yeah.
are there other things we can do in terms of, just
Yep.
keeping up?
I think it would be great also for the speaker exchange to know the topic spaces. I think that could provide, like, oh yeah, I could use someone to talk to my team about that. So if we could attach like, topic spaces that maybe you all feel, comfortable with, I think that'd be great. And just as I was looking up there, the research-backed insights, it came up twice when we were doing this exercise. This notion of trends, forecasts, futures. Right, and so I see research-backed insights.
The outlook on certain things.
Just the outlook on it, kind of thing. Again, as I think about all this noise that's out there, very few legitimate, right, noise makers, and perhaps we could be that, right? So, food for thought.
Anything else?
Yeah, Gordon, while we were talking just now, I wrote down a framework formula for how our articles could actually go. And, you know, we do big research articles. So what if there was this straight S formula that we use that's like, you get the hive mind perspective, you get the state of the industry, where things are going, where we collectively see. Then you focus on like one or two companies, how they're doing it, where they're leading. Then maybe you take a member or two that has experience in that area and go deep on that. And then have those quotes and then have some like clear takeaways. And then I think you can share that out in multiple ways, right? There's the full version that goes out, there's the individual case studies, and then there's like little snippets that you can post to keep that energy going. And I think sometimes we lean in on a very like, what feels like a personal narrative that turns into a company narrative that goes back to a personal narrative that then goes to like takeaways. And I think there's a lot of things to sift through to get the meat. So how do we put a formula together that's like, as you read it, it's like solid punches in the face with a clear takeaway?
Content format. Okay. We're basically at time. We have the final just like appreciations. But to wrap this up, some members have been helping us through these committee models. Some of us have been meeting bi-weekly, monthly on certain topics. So if you're passionate about things like research or partnerships or content or maybe next-gen education, these are things that we're trying to rejig our 2026 calendar for, so there is baked-in inputs and rigor in how we go about these topics. They've been extremely valuable for me and the team to help make sure we make the right decisions. All right. Yeah, Disha, do we just want to create some buckets, and if people are interested, they just put their name under? Yeah, we can do that. Okay. While she does that, I just want to go to the last section. Oh, the poll on the WhatsApp? Okay. Okay, okay. We're going to do it in the census form. Okay. I always get nervous leaving, and then you guys haven't filled it out, and then the emails don't get opened.
Yeah, because not everybody's in the room.
Okay, yep.
The open rate is high, but the response rate is low.
Yeah, they open, they don't click. Okay. We got about 15 minutes left to noon, which is kind of the end of the session. I thought it'd be really valuable to just make some time, because I'm pretty sure some of you have made new connections and appreciations for each other. So just giving space for you guys to connect, I think, would be really valuable. For me, this has been, I think, even more amazing summit than last year. I don't know what changed, but something flowed. And one of the analogies I've been telling myself is stop being that rock in the river and get out of so the water can flow and not over-design the session. So I hope this fluid and more creative approach has been useful and valuable. Like, I didn't know what I was going to talk about on certain moments, so if you have liked this format, we have a survey prepared to just like capture what you like to see, what you want, changed as we think about next year's event calendar. But we have a lot of dreaming and brainstorming to do after this summit. Yeah, any appreciations, conclusions? Oh, well, then do you want to fund more stuff? Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Go ahead. You first. Well, I was just going to hold the microphone.
Nope.
Cindy.
Oh, God, not the person. So, Mike, wow. Since I joined, which was at the end of February, this has been an incredible booster for this moment in time. And thank you for showing that infinity, because I am on that right-hand side, or have been, of that infinity, where I'm in between really trying to kind of reform, reflect, and think about what I want to do next. And that can also be really lonely, completely. And I feel like the relationships I've built up to now, those of you that I've met in this context this week, have just been so immensely meaningful. And I feel like I have a community. I feel like I have trusted partners to call on for certain things. And that has been the absolute best thing about being part of this. So thank you for putting this together, and thank you all for your generosity and openness and support and all of that. So there you go.
So I have an observation. When I see people come in for year one, it's this, because I felt that as well, which is like, it's lonely, all your peers are not designers, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then year two, which is where I am now, I'm really learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from my peers. And I think we were more focused on the business of what we need to get done. And I'm super excited for the people that are here for the first time that have injected all this new data and new content. I'm super appreciative of that. So.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to everyone. This has been perfect timing, having joined the council 8 weeks ago. So great way, a great introduction. It's been great to connect with some people I haven't connected with for a while. Great to meet the new folks. And you know, Cindy, many of us have been where you are, and many of us will be there again. So you are not alone, and anything we can do to support you, we will do.
Yeah. I would like to share that I think this is my first week. I don't and it's been a pretty great one. I share a lot with what Cindy shared, and I love the affinity model as well. Honestly, I don't know where I am on it, and that's a part of what I'm kind of working through, and the conversations that I've had are certainly helping me there. But I also am really excited about, I'm very inspired about putting energy into the work that we do together, and I know that regardless of where I am on that loop, with regard to my role right now, that that I think the work that we do together is really going to kind of boost how I'm feeling about the work that I do more broadly in the world. So thank you. It's been amazing meeting you all.
It's like
We're all black. Today should have been an all black day.
It's like a beat club. Yeah, I'll echo the same things to some degree. It's just the sense of camaraderie, being in a room with people that have sort of the shared experience has been incredible. The wisdom from in session to sitting at tables with people and having conversations about things that have been sometimes completely adjacent, but incredibly thought-provoking. It just expands the way you sort of see the world, and the influence of design and the influence of things on design has been incredible. The other thing I said to Gordon yesterday was there is something unbelievable that we're all sort of just treating as normal. You know, when you look around the room and you see the experience and the scope of the work that's happening with the people in this room is pretty mind-blowing. And everybody here is new to me, so I've had the opportunity to meet a couple people before, but you're basically walking to a room for folks like me and Caleb and some other people where it's everybody is new, but our ideas and challenges and approaches and intent there's so much commonality there, just gives me lots of hope for the future. And I think this is one of the things when we're talking about sort of the next generation is reinforcing the notion of hopeful thinking and the return of joy to some of the work that we're doing, which is just, this room has been incredible. So I just appreciate the fact that I've been here with all of you. Thank you.
I think they do that in spoken word clubs and stuff, right? Yeah, absolutely. Big thank you to everyone here. A timely boost for sure. And I was reflecting on, I think, Janiki's question yesterday, is this a vitamin or a painkiller? And I think sometimes it's both, right? And so it's just kind of great to hear some of the challenges, but to also hear many of the successes, right? Sometimes we don't celebrate those enough. And I think if we can revel in that when we get together, whether virtually or together, I think it puts us kind of in a better spot. Everybody's dealing with some stuff, and there's no lack of stuff that needs to be taken care of. But this is my first, gathering face to face, and I'm glad I made the investment to come.
I think what Eric said really resonated. It's like when you first join, it's kind of like, oh, look what everyone is doing. Am I on that level? Am I going to be the weirdo that is doing things completely differently? Then you're kind of like, yeah, of course. But and we all are in certain ways. But then you go to like, oh shit, yeah, like I'm doing that too. And it just starts to like help build confidence, and then there's learning, and then there's how do you give back. And what was really fascinating to me is that like Fabrizio's real. Like I thought he was just a headshot. I was like a place filler at first until I looked. No, like he came so far, and like I'm glad to have met you in person, because as I've met almost everyone that has been here, not for the first time, like Fabrizio's been the one that like I haven't had a chance to meet and catch up with, so that was awesome. And thanks, Gordon, for organizing all of it, always.
I'm terrible at these therapy session kind of things, but I'm gonna try. So I've always had like this internal energy that drives me in a way that almost feels kind of spazzy. Like I've had trouble trying to figure out how to contain that and where to focus that. And then lately, the last couple years, taking on this new role, it's been a lot of pressure and a lot of everyone coming to me to solve the problems. And it's also an incredibly emotionally charged environment. So I've had to learn how to show up at the table with that emotional intelligence, right? And just suck it up and be the adult in the room. And the last couple years, it's been feeling like that energy that I've always had has just kind of started to dim a little bit. And I've been getting worried about that. Like who do I go to? Who's the person that I can vent to and bounce ideas off of? Who is somebody that I can learn from? And there are a lot of people in other disciplines, but who is a peer that I can learn from? And then I found this council, and now I feel like this whole conversation the last few days has just lit that energy back. And I feel like all of a sudden we all have each other as our own mentors, people we can learn from, peers. And I really appreciate everyone's vulnerability and openness, and allowing me to join and listening to me as well. And it's just been so amazing to basically find a tribe. I found my tribe.
So Andy, I actually exist. But I wanted to join in person for such a long time. I've been talking to Gordon, and at some point in February, it almost happened, but it didn't happen because there was a few dates, and I was in New York, I think the week before or something like this. It was hard to travel again, but I'm so happy that I came here. I've been obviously like following everything we're doing. I've seen most of you in pictures, and I'm also realizing that you exist as well. And I think I think all of us, as someone said, like is going through their stuff. Like we're just celebrating, I think next month, 1,000 days from the setup of this area where I'm leading at Itaú. And there's this feeling when I joined that I knew exactly what I needed to do. Like, you know, I knew that we needed to be analytical, we needed to build data. And this and that, and kind of build the area and all the different stuff. And now it's like, what else? You know, what is what it's going to be the next 1,000 days? Like, what are the future things? So I'm really looking forward. I think all that we've been so far, it's been great. But I think the opportunity and the potential that we have through these discussions to shape the role, the industry, build new case studies, build research, you know, build content, like learn things together is so amazing. My comment is going to be about the future. I think we have so much opportunity to build things together. Yeah.
Is this on? Yeah. You know, this is I guess what I'm doing right now is sort of my first like real scaled leadership role. And I think coming here, I was definitely on the upward hill after the creative self-destruction cycle. And, you know, I've been in my role now for 10 months, and I'm, you know, working through things that I've only kind of had frameworks from other people to sort of reference that I've worked with before, many who are actually, like Suzanne, who's on the council. And it still is very lonely. And I think that I've learned just being here these past couple of days so much. Like, I've been going back to my room and I've been writing things down, and like, you know, and I felt like maybe to your point, like my light was starting, or my, you know, the pace started to feel like it was dimming a little bit, and now I feel like I'm kind of recharged again, because to sort of do this type of work that we're doing, you know, the points about emotional intelligence, like it can be draining, right? And I really look forward to having this group as a source of inspiration. And, you know, honestly, like, maybe, like, I view myself as the next generation, or whatever, you know, we keep talking about this. And I really am looking forward to having mentors and people I can start modeling my own sort of unique style. I kind of already have one, but like, this is sort of like really helping me mature that framework. And I just can't, you know, thank you and this group, like, immensely. I'm really looking forward to the future here. So.
I was like, do we need a conference rename, like the Light Conference, the Reignition Conference?
Well, I can relate to that. I feel like my battery was at 20% and I got it to 80 over the last couple of days, so I know what you feel. A couple things I'll say. Clearly, like, the room is filled with people with a tremendous expertise and insights, and just hearing what you're sharing is, you know, obviously we've expressed that. But I also want to appreciate the fact that not only are you sharing your expertise, but people are listening and learning. Like, there's a real sense of humility and a learner's mindset from everybody here, even though you're at the top of your level, really, in the industry. And I think, to me, that's something that I look for in talent in any way, and I value very highly. And I'm just so refreshed and appreciative that we still have that we all exhibit this desire to continue to learn and not be the one that knows everything, right? So I appreciate that. Thank you. And then second thing I wanted to say was, I really appreciate Gordon's staff that has provided amazing support for us. And, you know, that includes the photographers and the videographers and everybody who's helped make this, you know, more smooth running. And thank you. Wanted to take them over that.
Yes.
All right. Who's next?
Eric, all right.
I don't know how I follow up with everybody. So yeah, new member, also pattern match with potentially destroying the infinity cycle and at that part, but I don't know yet, right? And that's what's interesting. And I guess when I started talking to Gordon and when I was looking at the profiles of everybody, it was kind of interesting because, like, I'm a gaming executive, you know? I build interactive experiences for people, and I enable creators to build tools that allow that to happen. And I'm looking at financial services and automotive and airlines and all these, like, crazy, like, old school industries, you know, and I was kind of trying to figure out, you know, do I have something to contribute? You know, how do I fit into this community? But I think being here confirmed what I believe to be true, which is like we actually do hold a lot in common, and sort of being together in this space makes that really clear in terms of like our sort of core commitment to taking a human approach to technology, to each other in this room, and I think that probably represents how we handle ourselves within our organizations and within our business, and it just, where I was kind of considering how I would enter and become resonant with this council, it's just really been fantastic to meet you all and sort of feel that common identity that we all share. So I appreciate it. What's that?
Just a small remark. You were doing some interviews, and I noticed some people were like trying to, downplay their. I noticed that when we were doing some interviews, or even in kind of discussion, I was like, some people were kind of downplaying their roles a little bit, or trying to be very humble about it. I was like, no, own it. I want you to own the role. So anyways.
Oh, I have plenty of confidence to project, but I also have humility.
No, I mean,
in
everyone in this room, I was like, I want you to own it. I want you to own it.
Total +1 on everything I think everybody said here. Just great appreciation for being part of this group. You know, one thing that I wanted to add is more of a wish. You know, I used to be the only person in Colorado, and I'm coming up on 2 years being part of the group, and it felt so lonely out there because I'm like, oh, I gotta join this virtual group and this virtual group, and I'll tell you, you know, just coming together and being together face to face and being part of these discussions is invaluable. And I wish, this is my request, I wish there's a way we could do this more often than just once a year. Because I just don't think being virtual, you know, not being in a hub yet, maybe, it would be great to just have that personal connection on a more frequent basis than just here. And I know some of us meet up at Config and stuff, but any way we could do that, I would be totally supportive. Yeah, I know. I wish I could. The timing's always like a challenge and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't think
Thanks, Eric.
Talk about that because the event model we have today is not fixed. Nothing's fixed, and I'm here to learn. And if it's more of a casual, you know, I don't know what it is, or regional summits or something, let me know. I'm very open to those ideas. So I do want to encourage, don't be afraid to popcorn an idea to WhatsApp. Just share it to all, you know, we're going to respond. And so, yeah, I'd love to figure that out.
So next summit is in Rio, maybe?
Rio de Janeiro.
That's so fun. No, but I love that. I actually, I think what's really special is that, and a lot of folks have talked about this, but there's a lot of, I think, just amazing humans in this room. And I genuinely would love for anybody that's ever in the New York area, like, please hit me up, please let me know, I will be there. But, you know, I think the other thing that's coming up for me is that I don't know who said this out there in the industry, there's a little bit of a framework that I've seen around craft, statecraft, and then stagecraft. Do we know who that is? But that's a lot of our roles as design leaders as well. But when it comes to statecraft and then stagecraft, like I think this room actually is that group of people, and Gordon, through your vision of bringing everybody together, has really created the conditions, I think, for us to do something really amazing and powerful together. And so I'm just really grateful for feeling that potential. It's not every day that you feel like you've got actually the ability, Eric, to your point, to make the world a better place. And I think that creating the conditions through the team and through you is a really, really big deal. So I'm just grateful that everybody has been so engaged and that I got to connect with so many amazing people.
Stagecraft, I love that. Matthew, I think you're the last one. Did you go yet?
I'll be the second to the last. More of the same. Huge thanks. I'd love to do more. The interesting piece that I found more in the one-on-one conversations was the range of where we all are in our lives, not in our careers. And I think I would love to lean more into our life. Yes, we all work. Yes, we've achieved a lot collectively, and we will achieve a lot more collectively. But also, a lot of us are entering that stage of leadership, and a lot of us are kind of in the mid-range. Some of us are going, really, what's next? And how do we transition through each of those stages? I think collectively would be really interesting. Because it's the how do I maintain a thing that I didn't know I could maintain is a lot of what we deal with, right? Like I reached what I thought my end game was. And do I keep doing that? Is that interesting? Does it still satisfy me when I'm not going to get the next thing because I don't want the next thing? And then if I stop doing that thing, did I lose everything that I've gained? Do I go to the, how? And I think that there's a lot of us we will all hit that stage. And I think that's a really rich part of the dynamic collectively, because it is a very small community that is able to be in this room. And it's also an even smaller community who've done it well and have exited well. And I think that life cycle is something to be discussed and nourished and thought about as we go through the years together, because I hope I see many of you leave the group over the years. And what does that mean? And I think that's a fascinating life cycle of leadership that rarely is celebrated, that's rarely nurtured, that's rarely thought about. It's, did you make fill in your acronym? Good job. But did you do it well? Did you thrive? Was it interesting? Was it okay to end, and did you lose everything in the ending? Was your ego and your worth built around the last promotion you received? God, I hope not. But I know it has been for me many times. And so I think that type of discussion is super valuable, would be for me. So thank you all for being the sounding board and being the support and being the collective knowledge. So appreciate it. And to Gordon for bringing us all together.
A huge thank you to everyone here that has been so generous with their time and energy and hearts. This is so refilling of, I think, a bucket that can get emptied, and the care that is so important that we continue to give ourselves to be able to give so much care to others. You've all made me introspective and just so much to think about, and such a great perspective opener to be here. And I know that I'm going to carry this energy with me, and to so many points of what is the life cycle, what is the legacy. That's a big part of what I'm thinking about, and it's less about where I am now and so much more about what I'm leaving behind. And so I'm in that stage of thoughtfulness. So thinking about what is the whole life, and how will this group and what we've created and shaped and how that continues to help people is a lot of what I'm thinking about. So thank you for refilling my bucket. And I'm really looking forward to what we're going to do together.
I think, Jay, you're the last one, right? You're hiding over there.
Wow, thank you. I learned so much. I wish I could have spent more time with some of you that I had less meaningful conversation, not because of I ignored them, but you're probably also busy talking to others. I think it was, there's personal level stuff that I was learning. There was industry level stuff we were learning, sharing. some of our challenges. I kind of like, well, I like what everyone said, but the infinity thing is a really good way of completing some of the curved things that's in my head, so it's really good. I think that's really good too. I won't diverge. I was about to diverge, but I won't diverge. But should I?
If you're asking, the answer is yes.
Yeah. So I'll try to tie this together because do you guys know? I'm sure you know Paul Klee. He's a artist designer. He has a book called Pedagogy, and I got it as a design student, and I had no idea what the fuck he was writing about. It's a bunch of scribbles. But it's when I reread it, it's a beautiful book. There's one concept that I did understand, and he would draw the curve, the parabola first, as an arrow, and he talks about the human arrow. When you shoot it, the gravity of the earth will pull it down. So in a way, he's speaking about the constraints we have based on all the things that comes through our lives. Then he talks about the cosmic arrow. When you shoot that one out, it defies gravity, and it has an infinite loop. So that has always been with me, and everything I do sort of kind of fits that pattern. So it's really nice that you came up with infinite, because that's kind of the bow. What I wanted to, and don't get me wrong on this one, but, well, actually, I'm going to do a poll. Are you guys confident people? Raise your hand if you think you're a confident person. Wow, maybe this was a sensitive question. Do you feel you have confidence in your work? Raise your hand. Maybe, okay. Yeah. The reason I asked that is, the section on council, I was scratching my head. The idea of like, why do we feel we need recognition from someone else? Nothing against McKinsey, but why do we need a rubber stamp is my question. So here's what I want us to do, and I think you do it, which is, I don't know where I got this, but like when I go to a company, sure, they hired me and they're gonna review me, but I'm reviewing them as much. So the things that I do are experiment of the company. It's like a litmus test. And sometimes it's small rocks, sometimes it's big rocks, but the more big rocks you can turn in there, then at some point you've transformed the company. And you might not go all the way. The project might have ended. But I think that's the way I think about these things. These are your ammunition. Just go do it. See what happens. I want us to share that story. And that becomes a use case. Not through indirectly, through another firm. But I would love to, and then the practical thing is, if you all write objectives, see how I'd like you guys to share what is the corporate objective outline, and do they even fit? Like, that's the first thing I would do. Get in there and put in, a category that doesn't fit, and start writing it in. And make it your, level 1 goal that you want to track, and then show how you make progress on it. I'm not saying you don't do it, but I just saw a natural fit there that we can be very practical about, and it's also strategic, and then we can come back and talk about those things. And the reason I do this is, and you probably have this sentiment, like, if we value design on success only, that's a dangerous place to be. Because design should let people fail also, because you're going to learn from that, I think. So anyways, thank you.
It is the end. Genuinely, I was like, do we need a program called Sunset or something that helps you ride into the distance and horizon with grace and clarity? If you did it, I told someone at dinner yesterday, all the gradients for the welcome post were actual sunsets. I took pictures of transformed into gradients. If you didn't know. Huh? Improv? What improv? Improv? Oh.
I'll be the grass.
I actually have to go, I have to get a cab to get. Wait, she's a leaving bird.
That's the car. He's taking
For a minute. Okay, there you go.
You're the birds?
Birds.
I'm gonna be the apple.
I'm gonna be another treat because, you know, we're gonna make forest.
All right, come on, everybody needs some
Oh my gosh, of course you are. Yeah. Where's the squirrel?
I'm a squirrel.
Squirrel, thank you. We need squirrel.
Squirrel.
Nice.
Mounted.
I'm the man in the yard.
You got a cocktail.
You're chilling.
Chilling in the yard.
Where's the wind? Right behind you.